I don't get that, honestly,
Yeah,
guys. I really don't get that. Oh, I don't know why people are so bullish on Ink. It's the inflation token, and you can't do anything with it.
It's gonna attract the whales with the liquidity, bro.
Pass the mic
You
to
can't do
Giga
anything
here.
yet.
Pass the mic to Giga here.
Yeah, Giga, go ahead.
I mean, the thesis is the attraction of larger players to farm the ink, and it gets disproportionately rewarded to them as well as time goes on. But I also said that I think there is going to be a major tipping point where Pulse and Pulsex majorly outperform it. Probably, midway through the bull, I think you'll start to see major rotation of ink into things like Pulse and Pulsex. But I do think it probably is going to be a strong mover at first.
I would agree with that. I reckon it probably will do. It probably will do the best at the beginning, but then later down the line, it will be things like Pulse and Pulsex that will take off and do a lot better in the long run.
Can I get price prediction for Ink, please, from the speakers?
$1,000.
Tripping. I already posted my price predictions for Ink. I feel maybe like $300, $10 billion market cap, pretty reasonable.
160.
Oh, that would be beautiful, bro.
I'll be pretty happy if that happens. Oh my god! Which is the 9-inch incentive token. I think BBC will be at least 2 or 3x more valuable price-wise than Ink. So if that does that, then yeah, we're going to be having a good time. 2 or 100x from the sack price. From the bottom, it might be a bit higher. I can definitely see it doing like a 20x from sack price, though. I think that's a reasonable expectation to have, because at the end of the day, like if Hex hadn't have gone down so bad, it could probably do more than that. But because Hex went down so bad, like all the guys that sacrificed, that's kind of like their only money now. Like I know guys that had maybe 40, 50 mil at the top, and they sacrificed like maybe 500k, and now they're sitting on like 1.2 mil, and they had like 50 mil, wrecked. So now, like the Pulsechain sacrifice saved them. That's literally when I met Firewhale. That he literally said that to me. The Pulsechain sacrifice saved me, because if he hadn't have sacrificed, he'd still be sat in Hex right now. And I don't know what he had at the top. It was something like 200, 300 mil. He'd be sat on like 10, 20 mil now,
Dude, I always think of Gunther. I always think of Rackham, Rochelle, or whatever.
That guy, man, I was in his Telegram group. I remember he was doing these VCs. This was when Pulsechain got delayed, and I remember him so clearly. He was like, "Yeah, like the secret is you gotta really you gotta hold, and you just gotta really hold it out. And it's gonna run. Like Pulsex is definitely gonna run. Just want to hold." And how quickly did he dump that chart, bro?
Yeah, so I've heard a little bit. I don't even know I don't even remember what I heard, and I'm probably not even supposed to talk about it. I heard that he got screwed actually really bad, because it wasn't just him. That wasn't just his money.
He had Overwatch money. He had a group of guys.
My understanding is it's actually his partners are the ones who just completely wrecked him, and that he still has whatever technically is in his possession, or he had in his possession. But I don't know how to back any of that up. But I did hear that from a pretty reliable person.
I know it was a grouping of them that all pitched in together, didn't they, for the sacrifice, and then it got split into multiple different wallets. The good old times, man.
I think
wallets I've got tracked.
I think SAC levels are important psychological levels, and seeing that the Pulsex price is down substantially compared to like the Pulse SAC level, I think a lot of it is trying to maintain that those kind of ratios. The big thing is like you're going to disproportionately pump ink, and that's like why I'm such a big ink guy now. And I think you'll continue to defend the line. That's why I think you could have a lot of confidence, like buying here, even if you lose a few percent or whatever. Like it's really foolish, I think, to be sitting in stables right now. Like from a macro perspective, I really wouldn't.
I agree. I agree personally. I wouldn't. I would rather. I could risk a 20% dip, bro.
Yeah, but what do you think about the ETF starting on the 8th, but around that mark? I got a feeling actually it'll be more towards like the 15th, but...
Are they actually starting it? Has it been confirmed, or is it just speculation?
No, basically what's happened is it should have started on the 3rd, and then the S1 forms, they made some comments on the S1 forms being returned, so then they've sent it back to get it readjust. so everyone's got to adjust their S1 forms, and then it will go back to the SEC. So the SEC may comment on their on some of the S1s.
It's kind of like a cock tease because the Bitcoin ETFs had enough time to hash out all the details prior to, and that way when they launched, they went live immediately, and the ETFs didn't. But then they said like, oh, there's a 30-day minimum period, right? So like we knew at the very least that June 23rd would have been the earliest possible date, and then like now it's being drug out. I don't know. With the SEC getting as much shit as they've been getting in, I really don't think they're going to delay it too long. And if you look at I think it was 2020, the year prior to the real bull market. Let's see on ETH. I want to say it was right around July is when we actually started seeing some serious action. Yeah, July of 2020 is when we literally saw ETH do like a 2x or so.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of had a nice, that's when we started our trickle up before we got our explosive moves into 2021. So I mean, from like a timing perspective, it looks pretty good.
Could you have, or how much whatever coin that you have that can go back in and be reinfused into the system at a later date? That's kind of one of the benefits of the sacrifice phases.
It's basically everyone giving their money to a trader, like someone who's pretty much taking the top and selling it and then trying to buy the bottom. I mean, yes, it definitely preserved value. Don't get me wrong. I saved my ass a little bit, even with my small ass sack, because like my buddy was sacking like his entire net worth, and I was like, dude, I'm just gonna throw a little in. And then now he's got more money than me, and I'm like, dude, that was clever. I did not think you were going to get value out of it as much as you did.
No, but I just wonder for the next round, right? Surely in Richard's mind, or if I was someone who was an entity that controlled the SAC funds, okay, let's say you've got X amount of ETH, like how much you're going to keep back?
The not OG guys, a lot of the non-believers are going to be out chasing other things that have already done 1000x, and I think he probably would. Realistically, he probably is going to walk away for 2 years, like after the top of the next bull, and that's just, it makes the most sense, right? Like why would you do anything for at least 2 years, like when you can come back, redeploy those funds if you're not sitting into stables? What if he sells all of his ETH into stables, buys up Pulsechain, whatever, however much he wants to buy of it, whatever, puts the rest in the stables, keeps farming that money, because then it's going to act as like, hey, look, this wallet spent $100 million before on Pulsechain or whatever. It could do it again, and now it has more money than before.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
price appreciation at that point, well, particularly coming into the next bull market, is like, where does ETH go from there? Like if ETH goes up to say 15 or 10 or 20 this cycle, so what do we look at ETH in the future? Or does he start to move some money into other assets that start to do really well? I don't know. So it's interesting for us.
I mean, his past actions show that he likes to hold shit for a long time. And I'm gonna bet he likes being one of the top ETH holders. I'm not sure he's gonna be so eager to lose that power. But
definitely not, bro. He's not gonna put all that money back in, bro.
Of course. But then you have to ask yourself, wondering, is there other whales that have just the same amount, and maybe that stays passive and the SAC funds are active if they're both owned by the same entity? I don't know. A lot of people think it's owned by the same entity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of other money behind the scenes other than the SAC wallets, and like the community is too big for it, like Pulsechain to totally fail, I believe. I think one way or another, people here even are going to make money elsewhere and bring it in. I know several guys doing this. Gibson's one.
Yeah.
And like, I think it, I think it does well. I don't think it necessarily needs Richard. I think that will just like really bolster it and like it really, really put Pulsechain into like the top, couple chains. If he does step in and show that. And then especially if he's able to make money in the process, because he's just going to show that it's able to do it in the future.
It was interesting that we're kind of seeing a little bit of it. Well, actually, no. I mean, he's not really an influencer as per se, but I saw this with like Solid X, the recent tiny, the small pump, and it wasn't any funds that was deployed from what I saw, the firewall. It was more the fact that he tweeted something out, and then there was price reaction off of that. And I just wonder, you get Richard back on streams, it will have a significant effect, I think, on price appreciation.
Bro, I think everything's timed perfectly. I think Richard's not stupid. The man's a genius. I believe that he has got a plan. You know, he's not in it for the money. He's in it for the glory. So his chain will succeed, bro. I believe that we're going to keep going sideways. July the 8th or whatever, we're not going to get no good news, in my opinion. I think it's just going to be bullshit and maybe even a little dump. I'm hoping Richard Hart beats SEC and we come in raging. ETH is already at 5k and we come in raging. Do you know what I'm saying? But
yeah, 100%.
I
think we see 8k ETH at the end of the year. I think we could easily see 8k ETH by December this year.
Yeah, SEC case determines a lot here, right? If they, I mean, like I think it's highly unlikely, but if the court ruled that Richard Hart's totally at fault here, he has to repay money, anything like that, I think we really get beat up bad.
The other thing that you have to take into account as well is that them dropping the consensus case and not essentially saying that ETH's not a security. I mean,
yeah.
The direct copy of ETH 2.0 may have just saved the chain.
Yeah, but ain't the whole court case not about that? It's about about the sacrifice and things like that. Or am I wrong in that regard?
I don't think the sacrifice necessarily is like a life or death situation. I think how harshly a case could get ruled against Richard himself is, I think Richard's too much of a figurehead of the chain. I think that he has too much impact on the influence of everything on chain. So I think him being around is actually very, very important. Now, do I think things go not in his favor? Probably not. I think that it's pretty. It looks like everything's going to play out pretty well, but like in our favor. So I mean, I'm not really sweating it either way. Like, plus if you're farming like Pulse, Pulsex, whatever, Inc. If you have like Pulse ETH pairs, like it's not like you're gonna lose all your money. You know what I mean? If you're all in on Pulsechain and at least you have one of those farms going, like a ETH Pulse pair, like you'll be alright. You should be able to withstand some volatility. And like I said, I don't even think that happens. I think it's more likely we kind of glide sideways until this case gets resolved. Once the case gets resolved, Richard probably comes back around.
Yeah, man. Hopefully he starts
$20,000 ink, mate. That's what I want to know. 20k ink.
Bro, you know what's crazy? You saying that, right? When we was at the Pulsechain conference, we went, remember their names, but it was just talking in regards to what Richard Hart has in Ethereum. And bro, somehow this guy calculated that Richard Hart could pump ink to, I think it was 46k. He said. I was just deluded. Man said 46k ink, bro. Do you know how wild that is?
That good. I think because of the liquidity pairs, because of how thick it is against everything else and how it has to drag up everything on chain. Like maybe if you just injected like straight $500 million in ink or something. But either way, like ink at $1,000 is literally like a 12x from our last top. It's not actually that crazy. And I mean, I've said this on another space before, is that I personally remember calling a guy retarded for saying Hex was going to go to 23 cents. And then when it hit 1 cent, I was like, oh, maybe there's a chance. Lunch that has any kind of real value right now. No one's deploying any real amount of capital. And like, I know this personally from dudes with fat bags. Like, no one's ready to ape 10 bands into your shitcoin. They will. They will in like 6 months, but not right now.
Why do you keep saying 6 months, bro? It's kind of fun, man. I'm thinking. I don't know, bro. I mean, at the end of the day, it depends. I'm gonna have front row seats to the New York court case, so I can see what happens. So I could decide if I am gonna nuke my bags into stables or not. But if it gets delayed, it's kind of bullish. or if it gets dismissed, I don't know if it will. But if there's any type of bullish news, then I think we should do well. I don't think it's gonna take 6 months. But any negative news, then yeah, I could see 6 months. But
No. Don't get it skewed though, because like when I say like 6 months, I mean I'm talking.
That's when you're gonna have like your next baby, huh? That's when your like next kid is like due.
Yeah, right. But I don't think we see any real movement until a couple months in the next year.
I'm just happy if we, I just want to get like above SAC price, man, like Pulse and Pulsex.
Dude, we'll probably be there by the end of the year. I can't imagine being under SAC after the court case if it's positive in any manner.
No. I feel like ETH will drag us up though. Like if it breaks all-time high, because we're like actually like many people don't know this. It's like me, you, and a couple other people. Well, like ETH is like one of the main pairs. It used to be the main pair when ETH was like up, like when it was like 3,800. But that's the main pair to Pulse. So they're pretty heavily bonded. So if ETH goes up, Richard doesn't even have to do anything, and he owns like a shit ton, like 170,000 ETH. So it's gonna get dragged up regardless.
They're gonna get caught off guard, and that's how we're gonna pump. It's gonna probably happen pretty soon, in my opinion. I mean, if the ETH thing plays out for the ETH ETF, and if that really does play out, then maybe a week or two later, it will probably be rolled out in trading, and then so you're looking at mid-July-ish, and then there's going to be a shakeout probably of ETH, but it won't be as dramatic as Bitcoin. You might shake out ETH a little bit, but by August, a lot of that's going to be cleaned up, and there's probably going to be a lot of demand for ETH. And so it could get very fun very fast.
I keep telling myself in certain ways, and other people don't seem to see. Maybe they don't, maybe they do. But like 10,001, just look at 10,001 and look at dilution of a thing that then spreads over to other stuff, like cross-chain, like wrapped. You know what I mean? And then you just go, okay, wait for that dilution. And then also I'm talking Pulsechain on that. Then you look at, hacks and stuff like you were talking about, minus stakes and all that, time and stakes and how that works. Big payday stakes, yeah. After that, like rollover rate of that, boom. Because maybe a bunch of people put a bunch of them for a certain amount of time, right? Big payday stakes are pretty boss, dude. Like that's like 100% X on your ship, no matter what.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's still coming out. It'll be coming out until 2030. But I imagine a lot of these guys are going to ES next year. 2020, end of 25, 26, 27, I think we're going to see massive EESs, which is going to be great. So lock and load your T-shares now.
Yep.
Next year, or whenever you can, so you get the most of that. EES Fest should be a lot of fun. And whether you like it or not, from what I've seen from our community's probably not strong enough to maintain a pump from Richard R. or anybody else for the long term that's high priced of any of these assets, because we still need to liquidate people, and it hasn't happened yet because people are holding on for dear life. So that means we're going to, and Richard R. kind of alluded to this in one of his tweets, we're going to get a high price, but it's not going to last.
Yep.
It's not going to last very, very long, so you're going to have to take advantage of it. And it's probably
1 second, maybe something goes on for 1 second. Was that him that said that? Somebody said something like that.
No, I mean it'll not 1 second. I mean we might have several days. It might be 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I don't know. But if you look at what happened at the beginning of this year and all the sell pressure, that same scenario is going to happen again. Only probably we're going to get a little bit higher prices. Maybe it's a 10x. I don't know.
Yeah, but the thing is, on that, it's like higher prices in whatever, fiat dollars. Oh, back to the dollars. But I mean, higher prices in dollar value, it goes up. But then you're going to see people be like, well, I waited this much longer, but they overextended themselves maybe. And they're like, oh, my bags are weak. And then and then they'll just dump the price down, right? I'd rather do like something, restake. If I don't like the price of something when a stake comes up, I'm like, okay, restake that shit for like a little bit longer, Like you can just keep rolling your stakes over.
Yeah, you can until you get the price you want, and that's the smart thing to do. Right? You just say, well, all right, because eventually, you're going to liquidate all the liquid holders. The people. A liquid holder is somebody who has Hex in their wallet, not in the liquidity pool, right? They want to sell their Hex. They're just holding on to it and they're waiting to sell. There's still some out there. They're waiting to dump. Right, as soon as the price goes higher, they're waiting to sell. And whatever, like this is part of the game. I'm just thinking to myself, I think we're going to have a great opportunity to accumulate in 2026 and 7. Like, I think that next cycle is going to be when
Yeah,
RH
see that hockey stick
really,
down to
really
like the
shines.
double. So
Like,
we're talking about double cycle in this then. Yeah, you're talking 4
yeah,
years. Yeah, you're talking
I'm
about like
talking,
7.5 into a 8 year, whatever, something
I
like that.
mean,
So, right.
once we get, like, everybody give up, like, think about it. What
Yeah,
if
and that's the
everybody
point
gives
though.
up?
It
Oh
is
no, the
funny to
bull
see people
market's
do that. Like,
over.
oh yeah, I got like some person has like a huge amount of hex stake or something. They just ES that just because they're too late. I don't know, too lazy to even
They
conform to
don't
the.
want to miss.
All the
They don't want to
mechanics,
miss this bull, right? They missed the
no,
last
that's why
bull.
they
They
hold
don't
on
want to
to
miss the
liquid
next
stuff
one.
because what is actually very cool in a sense of like if someone did stake their hacks when they started staking it from the, let's say, beginning-ish time, then they ES it, yeah, like let's say yesterday, I don't know, or today, I don't know, and then they go, okay, that actually equated to like basically holding its value in a sense of where they started to end. Yeah, after 50% of the time, if they want to ES it before that, they're getting wrecked, right? But man, it's people out there with like these big bags.
Pulsex haven't done a lot of X's, which means we are going to see a lot of ES because people are going to draw on everything they got to survive, which is it's fine. I mean, that's
That's a fair
the
game. That's fair
their
game. That's part of
coins
the
to
game. How
sell.
you
You know,
survive, bro. That's just how you make it through the day. Yeah, in a way,
yeah.
but yeah. But I mean,
The other thing is, I mean, what if we see the pools get pulled, right? Like, what if half the ink pools are gone, or almost all of them, or something, right? Like that could be like, wow, I got to get using hex because the ink pools have evaporated or something, right? Like that could happen at any moment. Most people aren't thinking about that, but there's always that chance that ink price goes low, and then they say, you know what, we're going to pull the farms, and then there's only one farm. It's Die Pulse, and that's it.
yeah, die false. Yeah, that's a big one.
That's
I mean,
all you got, you know. That's
big.
all. The only way to earn ink is Die Pulse. Okay, guys, because Richard wants to support the chart, so he's going to say Die Pulse is the only way to go. I don't know if this is going to happen, but
I don't think, but I
see
know
that
that's
happening
what, you know,
eventually.
I see what you're saying through that, but personally, I would rather see die pulse, yeah, and then be like hex, and then be like whatever else is like in the scale of that realm. Something else, shit, like what? Do like
I mean,
pulse,
Hex Pulse pair is
yeah.
better. Right now, Hex Pulse pair is still better than staking Hex. So that's why I also mentioned this. Like, if you want to get people to stake your Hex, well, having a Hex Pulse pair is not helping out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you don't need to roll your stakes. You don't need to do small stakes. You don't need to. No, you just put your Pulse and your Hex together, and you're making 28%, which is way better than 10%. You know what I mean? Like 10% in a year.
I mean, if you look at that same thing, right? So if you look at that A to B, right? So you provide on one side to the other side, and you're making what? What did you say? 78% or something? I think you said.
Pulse Hex pair is probably around 28% right now. It's been 30, 35, it's been 25. I mean, it fluctuates, but it's almost 30, yeah.
Yeah, okay, but then you go, okay, what would be the thing that would make me want to stake some hacks, right? Would be like, okay, whenever I staked hacks, it wouldn't be what I looked at the actual numbers of now are, it'd be looking at the numbers of the future, yeah? So future stuff, right? So if I wanted to go and say, do I believe that on Pulsechain, which, geez, that's a pretty good pair in there, yeah, not bad. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, you could put both of them together, right? So you do hacks, you do the LPs on that, right? I mean, we're just talking simplistic on this, right? You know, and then that's not hard, but long time term hold, like what happens, like hex contract will rip no matter what, like it works, right? If something happens, someone can like LP. I mean, hex is like a guarantee in a way.
You're gonna lose your hex. Yeah, you're gonna lose your hex. So if hex rips faster than pulls, then you're losing a bunch of hex, and it's gonna happen to a lot of people.
Yeah, whoops, and you go whoa, and you go, man, I just lost against pulse, which I like both things. You're like, whoa, when you could have just staked the hex, watch price go up, and if you time your hex stake right to where you think the time frame in 2.5 years or a year or some shit, you know, banger, you nail that right on time. You're like, okay, I didn't need to do LP. Maybe you do LP on a little bit of 10%, 15% or whatever bag, whatever. Yeah, go light.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a lot of work. First, when I say all those words, man, I'm like, my brain just starts going, man, can I not just sit in the motherfucker?
It's yeah. I mean, actually, Hex is single-sided stake. There's zero risk as far as you losing Hex as long as you click the couple buttons correctly. So it's
Right.
more simple, which is it's more advantageous, of course. And if you go long, you're going to end up earning 100% APYs. You're going to have to wait 15 years. So
Yeah,
it's up to
exactly.
you. Yeah, it'll happen. It's built that way. People aren't staking Hex a lot, which means you have a huge 1,000. There's millions of T-shares for this year, next year. You know what I mean? So we need to see the T-shares die, and if you push yours out 15 years now, you're going to be one of the chosen few, right, that gets that large amount. And by then, there isn't going to be 20,000 T-shares in 2039. There might be a million. There might be a million, but guess what? You only paid a tiny amount of Hex for yours, and everybody else had to pay hundreds of thousands of Hex for theirs. Yep. So you get far more yield for your dollar, let's say, it's amazing. The whole system is going to reset. Don't buy the noise about the OGs, all this blah blah blah. Give me a break. That's a bunch of crybaby nonsense and people who don't want to compete in a fair system. Every single person will lose all their T-shares when 5555 ticks over. The whole system resets. The whole system resets. There's no more T-shares. Everybody starts over. So nobody gets an advantage. So really, you have the advantage right now because you can push your T-share beyond that tick over, right? So you're capturing the future right now, which nobody's doing almost. So you get to be one of the elitist of elite OGs at that point in 2040, which, the OGs of today are only earning, a couple Hex a day per T-share. You'll be pulling in.
What's the T-shirt rate?
50.
Parkway,
What's the T-shirt rate?
20 something after.
You get 20 Hex
Yeah, I think it was.
per day? What?
Yeah, man, T-shirt rate's been cranking up, man. I remember went back down because the T-shirt rate went, because everybody dumped. And the T-shirt rate does adjust, which is kind of trippy, but it always goes back up in a way. But yeah, it's like, I don't know, if you look at the whale alerts or whatever it is, it's like 21.67.
Because if Ethereum was a security, the rest would have been a security too.
I'm talking about the function of selling coins to somebody. There was no selling of Hex to people. So you can't say Richard Hart made money from Hex or he basically raised funds out of Hex because it was an automated system, right? And there's no, doxing of the wallet. So you can't say, oh, wow, he got the ETH, he went, he did this, he did that. But anyway, we'll see how technical they end up getting. It seems like he's going high level right now. Like, hey, throw this out. We'll see. That's the first phase. From there, we go to
From there, we're going to the moon, bro.
Hold your ink. Hold your ink. It's not in the lawsuit.
So the only thing that remains on the table is just Pulsechain and Pulsex, SAX, which it's don't have expectations was a slogan, right? And it was your call to make if you wanted to participate in that.
There was no front end, Parkway. So there was no front end that you had to click and approve, and then you gave your crypto to a front end, and then eventually there was none of that. You literally just sent your coins to somebody. That's your choice. If you want to send crypto to somebody, that's on you. No expectation, just send. So the function of sending didn't involve any website you created. It was literally you using your wallet. And if you wanted to donate, that was up to you. It's like.
So me being a sacrificer for Pulse, or for Pulsex, I really did not have actual belief that it would be something that would do something in a way, because you have to write those cards off the table in order to send it forward in a way of I don't know, man. True belief is throwing dollar bills out the door or the truck.
And yeah, we could go lower. Who cares? But I think I'm getting a fair deal right now.
Yeah, fair deal for the price of the thing. If you want to.
Yeah, I think I'm getting enough units. I'm getting a fair deal.
Okay, well, let's count it. Let's count it not in dollar value then. How many pulse does it take for one Hex?
I think it's about 120, 118.
Yep.
Yeah,
118
something like
even.
that. Right?
Wow.
So yeah, that means Hex got weaker. You know, I think we were at 250 or something, 255. We went down to 100, then we pumped up to like 150, 160, and then now we dropped down to about 120. But so regardless, Hex is definitely tied directly to Pulse, and there's always going to be like this trade ratio it's gonna flip back and forth a little bit, but it's pretty stable. You know, we've been maintaining the mid hundreds for the better part of a year. You
Which
know,
is
so
pretty
that's something you
strong,
can
man.
count.
Over that
Yeah,
year, that has been
strong.
that's strong in a
It's
way.
amazingly strong because X is almost 5 years old. So you think the
Right.
coin that came out, the new coin, should have been the coin that was like super, but actually, and this could be the strength of our community believing in the brand of Hex, that we are saying, well, and people told me this before Pulsechain launched. They said, well, the ratio is going to be 30 to 1. And I was like, 30 to 1?
30
You
to
really
1?
believe that
Whoa.
Pulse is going to be that strong that you can only get 30 Pulse for one Hex? No,
That's
Hex is more valuable than that. And this is what people were calculating back when Hex was 10 cents, 12 cents. They were thinking you would only get 30 Pulse for one. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That would mean that Pulse price is going to be like a penny or something right out of the get-go.
Like what? It's like,
So I was hoping we would get more Hex, more Pulse for our Hex, and it turned out right that we got more than 100. And it's been pretty stable. I like it. I don't know if Hex is going to turbocharge to the 200 or 300, but if Hex gets really scarce, Pulse is probably not going to be scarce pretty much for a long time. I mean, it's got to be really hard to make Pulse scarce.
Well, that's what I mean. Yes, I agree with that.
You've got validators.
Man. Yeah, you got Pulse just flying out there, 10,001 versus anything, and then you got like how much of it with the bots?
Well, you got validators.
Yeah, you got
liquid loans
for sure. Because at the end of the day, this whole thing is a time game, right? The longer you hold, the better it is. Because look what's happening. People that's selling off, they're idiots. Just simple idiot. You selling for what? You gotta accumulate right now. It's like right before the bull starts, right? Like, I don't know. Just saying.
Your life will change by adding liquidity into Pulsechain right now. I'm talking pennies. Pennies will change your life on Pulsechain right now. And it'll be a perpetual income money maker forever because of the bots and all the volume that's going to continue to trade on it, just like Solana. If you look at Solana and how fast it is and how smooth it is, Pulsechain will be exactly like that, but likely times 3.
So where would you recommend providing the liquidity? In the major pairs, or
doesn't even matter. I would just make PDI pairs at first or Pulse pairs at first. Just make the pair and just know you might lose some money now, but in the end, you're going to be making a shit ton of Pulsex sitting there on the side with volume and everything else. You're literally sacrificing value right now for you to win later, but you're sacrificing value. You will be sacrificing value now, 100%. But you're giving it up for the greater good, and that's the entire reason for Pulsechain. The entire reason of Pulsechain. Sacrificing something that you hold dear or valuable and sticking it to the side and being like, hey, I don't have to worry about that, but I'm providing liquidity, so I'm helping out the ecosystem. That's it. Simple as that. That's exactly what Pulsechain was created for and why it was created.
I appreciate you for helping me.
Richard's giving us the ability. Yeah, Richard's giving us the same abilities that he had whenever he was first starting, like making these obscure liquidity pools and obscure liquidity pairs. I mean, like I said, there was a $2 billion liquidity pool that he made with MakerDAO at the very, very beginning of MakerDAO. What's he doing there? What are you doing, Richard? It's crazy, but it's there.
I'm about to burn some liquidity pools right now.
Yep. I mean, it's hard to pull this stuff up unless you're looking at it. But yeah, that is a reality. That's where we're at. This dude likely got into Bitcoin and got into Ethereum, and every single good new protocol he likely aped, just like Adhesion, just like us. But instead of just holding onto the token, he fucking made a liquidity pool 4 years ago, 8 years ago, and sat on it for 8 years. So imagine the value that it is right now. Because it was literally throwaway money for him. So now he's literally giving us that exact same opportunity, that exact same thing that he once had, these liquidity pools on PRC20s. He's like, here you go, boys. Change your life. It's up to us to make that jump. That's where I stand with it.